Welcome to a late summer edition of the race ride. A little bit overcast, a little bit of a cross headwind coming out of the southwest today. Temperatures are down into the 60s this morning, high as 80s. This gentleman up here in the jersey to the left of me in the yellow jersey and the blue hat, his name is Alex. He's coming straight off of Kevin's Skills ride, which is a Tuesday-Thursday ride here out in Davis at 6 o'clock that happens throughout most of the summer, and I learned a lot of my beginning skills there. I just point that out because he's new here, and a little bit later on I'm going to put on a couple pointers to him to make sure he's aware. Anyhow, as we start out this ride headed down Seavers, we have a couple of special guests today. And that would be the tomato trucks, because it's part of the tomato harvest season, and they always provide a little extra punch in the face of headwind and debris, so it's always a welcome thing. And here we are just getting started. Before we really ramp up the pace going down this road a little bit more, we tend to pick it up as we make the right-hand turn for the series of turns that heads to the final sprint. So I'm going to talk to Alex here in a second and just instruct him that when you go to the front, you need to make sure you save enough energy so that you can surge ahead and pull off. We are rotating to the left, and that means when you are on the far right, you have to surge ahead and then come left so that both the riders that were in the front now both go left and cycle back slowly, as you see some of the riders here as we're riding. I just want to make sure he's aware of that. Again, he's new coming off the skills ride, and sometimes people come up to the front, work too hard, and they don't save enough to be able to pull forward and over to the left so that we can maintain the rhythm of the group.
If we go to the front here, we gotta save enough energy to come off and go forward and left. So you gotta let me know before you're done.
Yeah, I'm not gonna last long.
Okay. I'm just warning you. I'll have the harder wind side, but you still gotta merge ahead.
So as you'll see here, Alex is going to go ahead and pull off. Takes a nice little extra effort, goes forward, comes left. The rest of the group can come around and we don't break rhythm. We stay nice and smooth and out of the way. And, you know, when I was new, I know the first few times I experienced that, I guess I would have appreciated someone helping me out. So just trying to instruct Alex as someone who's new. Obviously, people are telling you things for a reason, and it's all, especially on these group rides, just to be safe and understand what the group is doing.
hot days, but nothing serious. 4 or 5 days in a row, not weeks.
So whenever we're riding in a group ride or in a race, I'm usually always trying to pay attention to what's happening at the front, if someone's going to attack or if there's going to be a move. And I don't know, I just had a feeling and saw Dave go towards the front. And I was talking to Joe here on my right, and I wanted to tell him that I thought Dave was going to go off the front.
He's about to go off the front.
I guess this one time I predicted it correctly, and I try to close the gap here, but ultimately so early, I like to save my effort for the sprint finishes as much as I can, and trying to reel him back, I was just having to go so deep. I didn't want to have to put that much energy out, and so I kind of give up here. But at least I was aware of it, and had a few more guys join him. This could have been really threatening because Dave is so strong. He could probably stay away on his own if he wanted. So coming to the end of Seavers Road here and making this right-hand turn, which leads to a series of this right, another left, another right, and another left heading to the 505 sprint. I always want to be kind of towards the front. It's hard to move up during those series of turns, but sometimes you find the right wheel, and Dave's wheel here is always the right wheel. So at this point I made the decision that I was going to just sit and follow Dave, because he's strong enough to pretty much close any gap he wants, and so I want to compete with him anyways. If I can hold his wheel through these series of turns and onto the straightaway, if luck favors me, then I should be in a decent position. coming up here on the right hand side, there's going to be this hole that you see. And I'm just pointing this out so that if you're on this race ride, you can avoid it. I certainly don't here. I go right through it. It doesn't disrupt me too hard, but it's one of those things, if your hands weren't ready, you might take that charring and kind of let your hands slip. Again, through this section, I'm just going to follow Dave, let other people do the work at the front, and see if we both save some energy here for some kind of sprint at the end. So in this section, the wind was coming from the left, and I kind of planned to line up a little bit more to the right. It's a trick I learned when driving race cars. So when I come through this corner, I can carry a little more speed as I swing in and not have to surge to make up any gap between me and the person in front of me. Obviously, there's a little bit of a gap between him and the person in front of him, but just something I tried to use timing-wise. It wouldn't work if we were 2 or 3 wide, but since we were single file and I could take up a little bit more lane, it's just a little trick I use to make sure I stay closer to the wheel, and also staying to the right like that. I've got some options. I can go to the outside more, or have a little bit of room to maneuver. And we're probably going to pick up some pace here pretty quick. Several people going to the front and keeping it fast is actually safer, in my opinion, on some of these sprints. You're going to get several people that are going to start to struggle at these speeds. It's pretty common. And I think here Dave has to close this wheel in just a moment, as the person in front is going to leave a little gap here. And every time you do that going into a sprint, as you can see, hitting 800 watts, having to surge up to speed. And then now we got another gap, and fortunately Dave's doing all the work here, so I'm going to take advantage of that. But those surges and closing those wheels are definitely take a little energy out of your legs. So coming up here, we're going to pass some people here that are going to be on the right. And Neil decides to come around to my left, which is a totally legit and good move. But what's going to happen here is Dave is going to move left where Neil is. And, you know, there's only so much jockeying and fighting I want to do on a race ride or in a race. It's not worth it. I'd love to have kept Dave's wheel, but I think in this just the way this kind of rolled out, I'd had to be very, very aggressive. And I didn't want to have to be that aggressive right now. Unfortunately, Neil goes ahead and ends up leaving a gap from me to Dave. And though I do put in a pretty big dig to try to catch him, Dave's so fast, I know at this point that there's pretty much no chance that am I going to close him and have the strength left to come around him. So I pretty much give up the fight here. In any big sense. I keep pedaling a little bit, and Dan decides to put a little extra energy and come around, which at this point I decided to save my energy for the next sprint. Seriously.